Welcome to episode number 34 of Huber Talk Fanatics. I am here with Henry Eisenberg, and we are going to dive deeply into last night's slate of big games and previewing Friday's matchups, which is a heavy slate of games that are really intriguing to watch, and also previewing tomorrow's matchups. The Charleston Classic gets underway, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So welcome, Henry.
Alex, thank you for having me on. Say this. I know I said this, I think one of the last times we did a pod together, which was around March, and I said that was the best time of the year. I would put this up there as well in the top times of the year. I think it goes March, then the end of the year, like towards Christmas, everybody's got winter break, holidays around, and then it's feast week. And that's what we're underway with right now. So very exciting time.
So let's start with last night's games. The Kentucky game against Michigan State was a really intense game. What were your thoughts on that one?
So actually, Alex, I had the pleasure of being at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for that one. The atmosphere was electric. I mean, not expect any less out of those fan bases, but especially Kentucky, they travel really well, especially when it's that close, Kentucky to Indiana. I was honestly very, very surprised with the outcome of this game. I'm still very high on Kentucky. KenPom I think they still have them at number one. I'm not sure if that's changed or not, but they did, before going into the last game, have them at number one. One of the main storylines of the game was you're getting back National Player of the Year Oscar Tshiebwe for his seasonal debut after he was out the first couple of games. He did not disappoint, I'll tell you that. He scored 22 points, had 18 rebounds as well. I would say that he is the best big man in the country. I don't know how you can't, especially after seeing Drew Timme get shut down tonight. But outside of that, I think the other two guys for Kentucky, before we get into Michigan State and how impressive they were, that I thought were the bright spots were their backcourt in Cason Wallace and Sahvir Wheeler. Wallace looked unbelievable. He is a freshman. People project him to be a lottery pick next year, and it's easy to see why. He had 8 steals on the defensive end, and on the offensive end, he did a little bit of everything. He had 14 points, got some nice buckets, but he also dished the ball out, had 5 assists. So I was impressed with him. And then Sahvir Wheeler, who is known as this big assist guy, did just that. He had 8 assists. He also contributed 16 points, which is, I feel like, what they need more from him, because we know he's going to be able to dish the ball out. But I think that especially when the defense is letting him take some easier shots rather than just him being able to play make, he needs to be able to hit them. And there were a couple times in this game where he was able to do that. And I do believe he hit a couple threes, shot 33% from 3. So not the greatest percentage, but it's definitely a step up from where he was last year. Other than that, I think that for Kentucky, you need guys like Jacob Toppin to contribute a little more. I mean, he did have 10 points, but I just felt like he was really a non-factor. Same as your sharpshooters and Antonio Reeves and CJ Frederick. They're supposed to be knocking down all these threes, which they have, don't get me wrong, in their first couple of games. But yesterday, when we were recording this, they shot a combined, 2 for 9 from 3. So when Sahvir Wheeler is making the same amount of threes as the two of them combined, there's an issue there. But I'm still very high on this team. I think that they are in a good position in the SEC. I think they're the best team in the SEC. They're my pick to win the SEC. So no worries there. They just got tripped up early. Shiwei's first game back. He also fouled out going into double overtime. And then before we get into Michigan State, what were your thoughts on Kentucky?
I really liked how their transition playmaking went. I feel like Michigan State just completely dominated more on the offensive end, and they really had some big time shots. I think Joey Hauser was electric for Michigan State. He had 8 rebounds with 23 points, as well as I'm looking at the stats right now. I see Malik Hall had 20 points with 5 rebounds. I think those two were some big differences and impacted a ton for Tom Izzo. And I just think that they're going to be a deep team in the Big Ten, knowing how impressive they were against Kentucky. And I'm very interested to see how this team can do going forward in the next couple of games. I'm not sure what their next game is against, but
Michigan State.
Yeah,
they have Villanova at home on Friday.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot they play Villanova Friday. So so they play my squad, which is Villanova, and yeah. I'm really excited to see how Eric Dixon does against some of the best players in Michigan State. And what are your thoughts on how Braden Slater will play, as well as some others?
I think that this game, I thought going into the Champions Classic that Kentucky would take care of Michigan State. So this Villanova Michigan State game was going to be very gritty. Two teams who weren't off to the greatest start. I mean, regardless, Michigan State would have played like very tough competition coming in. So it's not like they were like really struggling. They just couldn't piece together wins. So they'd be not desperate for a win, but especially looking ahead at their schedule, it's not like the easy part is, or the hard part's over. They have Villanova, Bama, Notre Dame. They're also playing in the PK 80. I think that's when they play Alabama, but then they're going to play another top team, I believe. So the gauntlet's still going for Michigan State. So I thought that they were going to like be really hungry for a win, which they still will. But Villanova on the other end, I can assure you, is hungry for this one. Especially like just they're 2-1. Their loss was in a Big 5 game at Temple. Temple's gonna get up for that one every time. And obviously still should be winning. But they're also without two of their top guys in Cam Whitmore, who, I mean, he's a freshman, so we don't know how good exactly he'll be, but he is getting a lot of good press. So, and he's very talented, performed really well for the national team. But they're also without who I can firmly say is their best player, Justin Moore. I still think that they would have ran the table March Madness last year if he hadn't gotten hurt. So that was unfortunate. But with the team they have right now that struggled offensively, of course, against Temple, but then struggled, which I wasn't that worried with that game. But then to come home after that weekend and play Delaware State, who had the longest Division I streak for the longest Division I losing streak, and go into halftime down 3, and for the majority of the first half they were down 10. That was a lot more worrisome to me. And they did struggle a lot offensively. They only scored 24 points against that Delaware State defense in the first half. Second half, they turned it up a little more. They ended up winning by 10. But I don't see Villanova going into the Breslin Center and knocking off Michigan State. It's just the way that Michigan State is playing right now, the way they just played up to Kentucky and beat them, and were very competitive with Gonzaga. But I mean, now we see that maybe Gonzaga is not as great as we rank them. I still think they're top 7 team, but I think that this is Michigan State's game. I think that they're the hot team, but I do think it is going to be a closer game. I mean, Villanova's always going to give you a tough matchup. Generally, they're going to be gritty. I know last year, I mean, I feel like you can't really compare last year this year. I know they have a lot of the same guys. They do not have Colin Gillespie though, and they also do not have Jay Wright. But last year, they did lose a couple games early that they were expected to win, and then they did go into Baylor 3 or 4 weeks into the season and get blown out. So I don't know what to think. I would like to think that this game is going to be close. I think that Villanova, I keep using the word, is a gritty team. Eric Dixon, they have experience. It's just how good is that experience? Like I mean, they're all solid guys. Eric Dixon, Caleb Daniels, Brandon Slater, but they don't have the guard play to have control when you get into this atmosphere like you will at Breslin Center, because the Spartan fan base is going to bring it on a Friday night right before Thanksgiving break. And I don't think Chris Arcidiacono is going to be able to control this game, and that's my worry with it.
It should be a very interesting Friday night, especially in that matchup at the Breslin Center. Before we move on, there was one other game that went down the stretch, which was UNLV and Dayton. What were your thoughts on that one?
Do you want to go UNLV Dayton first, or do you want to discuss Duke Kansas?
Oh yeah. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
I got you, Alex. I think that I wasn't very wrong. I was wrong with my prediction for the first game. I thought that Kentucky, actually I was very wrong. I thought Kentucky was going to handle them. Thought they would win by double digits. Clearly did not happen. They almost lost by double digits. I did think though that Kansas would win, but both teams impressed me. I think this was a Champions Classic where 3 of the 4 teams impressed me, and in this matchup, it was both of them. I think that Duke, first off, the losing team, they had a lot of question marks coming into this game, and their freshmen really played up, and that's what I'm impressed with. Kyle Filipowski is all of the makings to be this sport's next villain if he plays anywhere near like how he did in that Champions Classic game. I mean, you could just start it off with his build, 7 foot, wearing number 30. Someone notable that wore that number, I just want to triple check. I am 99% sure he wore this number. Yeah, someone notable that wore this number is their now head coach, John Shire, who was not the most beloved guy by most fan bases. I think that he is, or the way that he was able to exploit this Kansas front court, which is my worry with Kansas, like my only worry, because I think they're a really good team. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I think that his ability as in his 3rd game as in his third game in college, regular season game, to take advantage of that. Kansas is a top 5 team. To be able to do that, very impressive. Jeremy Roach also impressed me. I think he was able to, I mean, he didn't have the best shooting line, shot 1 for 5 from 3, and Filipowski shot 1 for 6 from 3. They actually, as a team, shot 3 for 21 from 3. So to do that and only lose by 5 to a team like Kansas, very impressive. Roach, he had a lot of plays where he just took it straight to the basket, was able to get his own. I was impressed with that as well. Tyrese Proctor did not have the best shooting stats going into this game. Hit a couple shots mid-range, shot 1 for 5 from 3, but they put, when Grady Dick was guarding him in that second half, he was able to hit a couple mid-ranges early on. And so, I mean, that's another freshman. And for the freshman to be able to exploit these weaknesses on the opposing end, especially against such a good team, that's impressive. And I feel like that's all you can ask for right now from a team like Duke that's so young, that was playing 4 freshmen for the majority of the game. That's all you can ask for. For Kansas, though, I mean, you have an all-American caliber player in Jalen Wilson, stemming off of what he was able to do in the March Madness run last year. Now he's the guy, and he's playing like the guy. He is taking the big shots. He is taking it to the hoop towards the end of the game. He had a big and one. I don't remember how much time was left. My mind's a little loopy still from that. Got that pat. I was up at 4:30 yesterday, so it was a long day. But he made a couple huge plays. And am I confident right now that if I need a last second shot, he's the guy? No, but I am confident that if I need scoring down the stretch, he can get his buckets. The other person I was very impressed with, which I really liked coming into this game, and he showed people why they should like him as well, if I hadn't already, is Grady Dick. Their star freshman. He just plays with crazy confidence, and obviously they weren't able to have him in at some points because of his defense, but offensively, he's a superstar. And he hadn't taken a shot in the second half. I tweeted something about it, but they finally, down the stretch with like 2.5 minutes left, finally gave him a shot, and he went off for 7 straight. That's the game right there. They were down 5, and I think they went on a 15-5 run. I'm pretty sure these numbers could be a little off, but something like that. And that was the game. So to have a guy like that step up on a stage like this in his third game, these are all freshmen we're talking about. This is what was impressive with both of these teams. The worry remains for me with this Kansas team. I know people are talking about the point guard play, but I think that DeJuan Harris is a great playmaking point guard. The only thing he can't really do is shoot. And he has shooters around him. I mean, Grady Dick, great shooter. McCullough and Jalen Wilson may not be the best three-point shooters. If they can improve on that a little, this team is dangerous all around, except when you get to that center position, and that's what I'm worried about. Can KJ Adams be the guy? I do not know that answer yet. I think that is the big question mark for this Kansas team. What were your thoughts on this game?
I really liked Kansas offensive playmaking. I liked how Grady Dick completely dialed in offensively, and he was one of the biggest factors in Kansas' performance last night. And yeah, I liked what McCullough did. I felt like he was a really big help in that victory for Kansas. I also like Jalen Wilson. He definitely went off. Those three that I mentioned are really big factors going forward for Kansas. And I think that Kansas, if they keep this up, then they got a big chance to win, at least win the conference.
Yeah, for sure. I think right now, where would I rank them? I think Kansas is my top 5. I tweeted a ranking this morning. I gotta see where I put them there. I think I was very impressed with them last night. The way that they were able to stave off Duke coming back. I have them at 3 right now, but that ranking also had Gonzaga at 2, which is definitely not where they should be. But they're a very good team. I agree with you.
Would you put Kansas above Baylor?
Right now, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's just because we saw Kansas play like this.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor does have a big game on Friday against Virginia, so I think that game is going to. I mean, I think that I'm just saying this because we've seen Kansas go up against a top 10 opponent and handle their business, and we'll see in one day if Baylor's able to do the same thing. And that's just the scheduling. I mean, Baylor's still scheduled some tough opponents. They got Virginia and Gonzaga in there, so in their non-conference. So nothing against Scott Drew or any of the scheduling. I just think we've seen Kansas win against the top team, and we haven't seen Baylor do it yet.
Mm-hmm. I was actually just looking at Kansas's schedule, and they have to play the Hoosiers at home on December 17th. So that will be a big game for them, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the final game of the slate last night, what were your thoughts on how Dayton played against UNLV?
I think that's a matchup there where I don't know what the spread was. I mean, not to bring Vegas into this at all or anything, but I think the spread probably indicated that the game was supposed to be close. Although you may not think that. I'm gonna check right now because I don't want to be speaking on this if I don't know if it was supposed to be a close game. But impressive with UNLV. I think it doesn't. I'm not taking anything really heavily with this game. I think it was a nice win for the Rebels. I mean, they start the year off 3-0. They've struggled in recent history. I mean, so to see them start off 3-0, good for them. I think Kevin Kruger's done a good job in his first 2 years or first year in a couple games. But yeah, a great win for them. It's a ranked win. Dayton is one of the top teams in the A10. They were the favorites for many. Yeah, Dayton was only favored by 4.5 points. This was supposed to be a close game, and that's what you have to take into consideration. Dayton's going all the way to Vegas for this one. They still should have won it, but you can't just be like Dayton's not good. They weren't able to get this done. It's still very early in the season. Wouldn't put any real light into this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my mind was fully on the Kansas game, so
I didn't get to watch it.
I got to watch majority of the second half of the UNLV game, but I just feel like Dayton seems to be legit, and I feel like they got the potential of upsetting a bunch of teams this season. And I was actually just looking at their schedule, and there's a possibility of them having to play the Jayhawks of Kansas.
Are they're in the battle for Atlantis?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's going to be a good tournament.
It says either them or NC State.
Yeah, that's going to be a good tournament. I mean, Dayton has some teams in their non-conference. Wisconsin, who's the middle of the pack Big Ten team. Virginia Tech, who's actually one of the top ACC teams. So that will be an interesting matchup. But I don't know how many teams I would say right now would get a bid from the A10. I think that St. Louis is obviously, I would say St. Louis is the top team right now. They just got a big win against Memphis actually last night. But I would probably say 2 or 3. That's what I'd say from the A10 right now. They're KenPom's 10th ranked conference, which they're behind. What are they? They're the fourth best mid-major conference. So I think that this is a late game, more than halfway across the country. Wouldn't put too much light into it.
Before we move on, I just wanted to mention that they start the battle for Atlantis against Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah, that's their first matchup.
Yeah. Before that, they play Robert Morris.
If they lost that, I'd be a little confused or a little concerned, not confused.
Yeah.
I am confused, but that is a game they should be winning handily, and that's at their home arena. No excuses with that one. I will not be giving them any excuses, but I definitely expect them to get the job done there.
So moving on to tomorrow, some games that stick out to me are Penn State and Furman, Colorado State, South Carolina, and San Diego State, Utah State. Which matchup are you most looking forward to watching?
Well, this Thursday slate, we're not getting those star-studded games like we have in these past couple days, but we're gonna get that on Friday. I would probably say Furman, Penn State. Furman's a pretty solid, one of the top mid majors, I would say. They've played, well so far. They haven't had much competition, but I'm really looking at Penn State in this one. I think Micah Shrewsbury has done a great job so far. This is his second year. Last year was a little bit of down year, but one of his guys that he got last year from Siena, Jalen Pickett, has really burst onto the scene this year. He did last year, but he's really strung it along this year. He notched the Penn State's second triple-double in men's basketball history against Butler. And that was the game I was really impressed with this team with, because, the GAVA games usually are tough games. They got a Butler team that is being tabbed and labeled as a sleeper or dark horse in the Big East. Thad Matta at helm. They have guys. CMS Lukosius, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the Big East. I just call him a professional. I think he just plays the game at a slower pace and is able to really just get what he wants. But Penn State, at some points in the second half, they were losing this game, but they went on a huge run at the end. And Butler made it a little close, but it wasn't as close as this scoreboard suggests. Penn State handle their business. So I'm excited to see how they do in a very early game, I think. This one's at 11:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So I think they will get up for it, especially against a team like Furman. But it's something to look for. I mean, whenever there's a game with an 11:30 start, that's always a factor. I mean, your warm-ups have got to start very early in the morning. I'm sure they've been asleep. I mean, we're recording this. It's Eastern time, almost 12:15 in the morning. I'm sure they've been asleep for a while. I'm sure they weren't even able to watch this Texas Gonzaga game. They were probably asleep before that. So I'm excited to see how they play because, like Butler is a dark horse in the Big East, this Penn State team is a dark horse in the Big Ten, and they don't have many. I mean, this Furman team may be the best team they're going to play in non-conference. So I think that they have limited room for error right now, and they really need to be playing well and because to gear up for big time play because they only have this game and then two others before their first game, which is against Michigan State. So Michigan State's going to have a lot more experience before that one, but I think that Penn State just needs. I'm excited to see how they play.
Yeah, those four games that I mentioned earlier should be really interesting to see what the outcome is. So moving on to Friday slate, there's some big time games, especially the nightcap with Nova, Michigan State, Illinois, UCLA, Indiana, Xavier. Starting with UVA Baylor, what are your thoughts with that one?
I mean, this slate, it could be the best we've seen so far. We're really kicking off Feast Week with a bang. I think this was a nice little taste today. But Friday's really where it starts. This UVA Baylor game is going to be very interesting. We discussed how I thought that Kansas was just above Baylor right now because we haven't seen Baylor really play anyone. This is where we see Baylor play someone, and this is a Virginia team that last season did not perform up to the standards of any Tony Bennett teams. Tony Bennett, one of the top coach. I mean, these are two of the best coaches going at it. Where is it? This game's being played in Vegas, so this is a great time to be in Vegas. I mean, when it's not a good time to be in Vegas, but you got two unbelievable games on this slate. I am looking forward to just seeing both of these teams who have been labeled as top teams in the country just go at it. I don't have a prediction for it right now, but I'm just very excited. I really like both of these teams, and we are going to see in the upcoming weeks how they fare against some very solid teams. So this game is going to be very interesting. For Baylor, I mean, who doesn't like their freshman Keontae George? But I mean, he's come out of the scene strong. I don't know exactly the amount of points he's averaging, but he did have 23 against Norfolk State. Sorry, my AirPods are just but they just have a lot of guys, dudes. Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer. It's just every one of these Baylor teams is just super athletic. Scott Drew loves that, and they're going to play great defense and get in a transition on offense, and that is something that Virginia does well too. They're right now they're 10th in turnover percentage in the country, and also they're 10th in defense, according to Ken Palm. And so got to give credit where credit is due. But their tempo, they're going to slow the game down. They're 363rd in tempo out of, I believe, 363 teams.
Mhm.
This is a team that's clearly going to slow it down, as the numbers suggest. And Baylor in tempo is 56. So this is going to be who can control the game. If it's a slow game, Virginia's going to win it. If Baylor's able to speed them up, Baylor's going to win it. So I think that's a lot on the coaching, and I don't know who I would pick over who right now, but I think that'll be very interesting because that's just a flow of the game thing. Two teams who both play great defense, but have very, very different styles of offense.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really watched a ton of UVA basketball yet, so it's hard to say. But I think that this matchup coming into tomorrow night should be a very most watched game of the slate, and between that one and Illinois UCLA, I think those two are the main factors of the slate, and I feel like that if Virginia comes out in the first 10 minutes and completely dominates offensively, I think they have no problem of getting the win. Although Baylor has some really good talent, and it might, you never know what will happen, and it might take Virginia over an overtime appearance against Baylor, but I just really think that this is a matchup that people will have their eyes on for sure. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Virginia's non-conference in Baylor, and then a little over a week later, they are in Ann Arbor. I'm very excited to see that one. I will definitely be there. And then a couple of weeks later, they're playing Houston. It's just they've got a lot of games. They've got a lot of time before ACC play starts.
Mm-hmm.
The narrative, the new narrative of the ACC being not so great in the regular season, is picking up again, especially with Louisville and Florida State struggles against bad teams in the non-conference. But yeah, I'm excited to see this matchup. I think it's harder to hold a team down than it is to speed a team up. And but Virginia is probably the best at doing so. So we will see who wins the pace game.
Mm-hmm. There's three more games that I want to talk about. So the first one is Temple Rutgers. That should be a very interesting matchup, especially how good Temple has been since they beat Villanova a couple of days ago.
I think that Temple's not great. They got that one against Villanova. Mind you, they have played 3 straight home games, and they are 1-2. Their one win is against Villanova. They just lost, they opened the season losing by 3 to Wagner in overtime. Not a great loss. And they did get the bounce back against Nova, but just yesterday or 2 days ago, they lost again at home. This one to Vanderbilt. I mean, it's a high matrix team, but one of the worst. I think that Rutgers is going to handle business here. Where is this game being played? Oh, this is at the Mohegan Sun. Okay. Northeast game, but I think that Rutgers, I mean, they are going to be a dangerous team in the Big Ten. If we're looking ahead, I don't think any team is safe against this team. I think there are very few teams in the Big Ten where you can be like, they should easily win this game, and Rutgers is not one of those opponents. Um, they bring back Cliff Omarui, who is, from what I've heard in podcasts, just a beast, very hard to guard, one of the best bigs in the Big Ten, which says a lot. They do have one of the best defensive players in the country in Caleb McConnell. I don't know if he's playing. I'll look that up. What do you think while I try to find this?
I mean, I was reading on Twitter that people have been saying that Temple really had high expectations coming into the season with the recruits they have had, and they feel really strong enough to have the chance to win the Atlantic 10. And I think this test against Rutgers is going to say a lot about this Temple team, and especially having to play at Mohegan. I feel like Rutgers fans are going to have an easy time traveling there. And I just feel like it's kind of up in the air for Temple. I feel like just the offensive system of playmaking hasn't really been there, as you could see against Vanderbilt. And I'm really interested to see how their offense has what it takes against Rutgers, especially in the first 10 minutes of the game. If they are dialed in and have the percentage of shots that they need, I think they win that game. But it's going to be a really hard stretch for them against Rutgers, and I think that it's going to be a Vanderbilt game type game against Rutgers for Temple.
I agree with you. I think I love throwing this word around. I think this is going to be another gritty game. Rutgers plays gritty, and the advantage of that is there are times where you just completely fluster the opponent and they cannot do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time it turns into just a defensive battle and just earning every single point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be more of what this game is. I mean, you look at last year, they did early on in non-conference have a couple games where they really slipped up at home, losing back-to-back against Lafayette and UMass. I do think they're going to win this game, but I think it's going to be close. I agree with you.
I really like how Khalif Battle for Temple has been playing. He's been playing some hard basketball these past couple of games, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he drops at least 18 against Rutgers because he has the chance of making a big impact for Temple. So we will see what happens once that game gets underway. Another game that is interesting is the Indiana Xavier game. What are your thoughts on that one?
I actually think that Xavier is going to win this one. I thought going into the Gavitt games,
Mm-hmm.
the home team would have the advantage in most of the games. I have been surprised. The Big Ten, just no matter what, has really dominated. So KenPom has this as a 2-point game. Xavier losing. I am lower on Indiana than most. I still think they're a top 3 team in the Big Ten, but I think they are in that 3 slot where a lot of others have them at the 1 or 2. A lot of their production needs to be from these freshmen. A couple of their big freshmen like Malik Renault, I hope I pronounced that last name right, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, who I mean so far have not had the most production,
Mhm.
but you still have Trace Jackson Davis, and he is the best player in this game. And when you have the best player in the game, you have the advantage right away. But I think that just the combination of everyone on this Xavier team is great, and they are another one of my sleepers in the Big East. I mean, you return your front court, who last year was great. Couple injuries kind of mess with that, and then you have a guard in Kobe Jones, or I mean, he's classified as a forward, but I think he is still one of the most underrated players in the Big East. He is just able to do everything. He did not play against Fairfield. I don't know if he had an injury. I'm sorry, I keep going off topic. But yeah, he was hurt in that game. He had an ankle injury. He may not play. And I actually, how about this? I'm gonna say if Colby Jones plays, this is how much of a factor I think he is. If Colby Jones plays, Xavier wins this game. Colby Jones does not play, Indiana wins this game. That's where I'm at with this one.
So it should be a fun-packed weekend, starting 4-day weekend, I would say, starting with tomorrow's games. And I'm really looking forward to next week with an even better slate of games, starting on Monday. And thank you for coming on, Henry. And I would definitely have you back on to talk basketball.
For sure, Alex. Always a pleasure. Love coming on. Always great talking. Hope you have a great weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. And good luck with your Wildcats on Friday. Should be a good one.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.